My wife mocked my low salary in front of her friends. So I quit quietly, built $1 million business, and refused to take her back when she begged. I'm a 32-year-old software engineer, and until that night I thought my marriage was built on trust and quiet respect. The dinner party had started like any other. Warm lighting, the smell of rosemary chicken filling the house, the low murmur of laughter as wine glasses clinked. I was clearing plates when Emma leaned back in her chair, swirling the last of her Pinot like a queen with an audience. "My husband's salary," she said, with a little chuckle, "couldn't even cover half of what we spent on this kitchen remodel." Her friends burst into laughter, sharp, glittering sounds that cut straight through me. One of them covered her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God, Emma." But the grin never left her face. I felt the air thicken, my chest tightening as every eye turned towards me. I set the plates down too hard, the sound a sharp crack in the room. "That's funny," I managed, my voice thin and brittle. No one noticed how my hands trembled. Emma shrugged like it was harmless, her smile smug. "I'm just saying he's brilliant, but not exactly Wall Street material." Something inside me sank, heavy and cold. The scent of rosemary turned bitter. I heard one of her friends whisper about ambition, like it was a dirty word I'd never learned. I kept clearing the table, my ears burning. Every laugh, every sideways glance seared itself into my memory like a slow brand. I wanted to shout, to slam a door, to demand she take it back. But I swallowed the rage, letting it settle into a hard, quiet knot. As I wiped the counters long after the guests were gone, Emma hummed upstairs, carefree. I stared at the wine-stained tablecloth and realized, for the first time, maybe our marriage wasn't built on respect at all. And right then, without a single word spoken, I made a vow Emma would never hear. The morning after that dinner felt like walking through a house where someone had left every window cracked, just enough for a cold draft of resentment to creep in. Emma sipped her coffee, scrolling on her phone, and without even looking up said, "You know, Sophie's husband just got promoted again. Vice president at 35. Her voice was light, casual, like she was mentioning the weather. I tightened my grip on the mug. "Good for him," I said, forcing a neutral tone. Inside, the words tasted like ash. Over the next few days, the comments kept coming. "Maybe you should talk to Mark about how he negotiated his salary. You're so patient with your small projects. Too patient." "Maybe." Each line landed like a flick to the back of my head. Small, sharp, designed to sting without leaving a mark. At night, when the house went silent, the echoes returned. I'd lie awake replaying every laugh from that dinner, every smirk she hadn't bothered to hide. The humiliation looped like bad music I couldn't turn off. I began questioning everything, my career, my worth, whether I'd ever been more than a placeholder until someone better came along. But I didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, I started noticing things I'd overlooked. The steady stream of packages arriving at our doorstep, designer shoes, handbags, little luxuries she never mentioned, credit card bills climbing higher each month. The way she'd light up when talking about her friends' glamorous lives, but barely ask about my day. I kept my observations quiet, like collecting evidence for a trial only I knew was coming. Each small discovery fed something inside me, not rage, not even jealousy, something sharper, a quiet determination. If Emma thought I was content to stay the man she could casually belittle, she was about to learn how wrong she was. I waited until the house fell into its familiar midnight hush before I began. Emma's soft breathing upstairs was my cue, steady, careless, the rhythm of someone who believed the world would always cushion her fall. I slipped into the small office at the end of the hall, closing the door just enough to keep the glow from spilling into the hallway. The computer screen lit my face like a quiet moon. I pulled up a blank code editor and felt something inside me click into place. No sarcastic jabs, no smirks, just the soft clatter of keys and the low hum of the CPU. I started small, a freelance project for a boutique clothing site, then a simple inventory app for a friend's restaurant. The money wasn't much at first, but it came with something Emma couldn't measure: control. By the second week, invoices trickled in. I set up a new email account she'd never check, and a separate bank account under my own name. Every time a payment notification pinged, a slow, fierce satisfaction coursed through me. It wasn't about greed. It was about breathing without permission. The nights blurred into each other, coffee gone cold, fingers aching, eyes burning. Yet I didn't mind. The quiet became my ally. I'd catch my reflection in the black window, the glow of the screen outlining the faintest smile I hadn't worn in months. Emma never noticed the dark circles beneath my eyes or the quick clicks of my mouse when she walked past. She assumed I was watching late-night videos or wasting time on forums, but as the numbers in that hidden account crept higher, a spark of empowerment flared. For the first time since that dinner party, I felt something other than humiliation. I felt unstoppable, like every keystroke was a brick in a future she'd never see coming. Emma's barbs, once coated in playful sarcasm, began to land like blunt weapons. One evening, while I was chopping vegetables for dinner, she leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone. "You know," she said casually, "my ex hit 6 figures by 28. I sometimes wonder if I should have learned a thing or two from him about ambition." She didn't even look up. The knife in my hand paused mid-slice. My jaw tightened so hard it ached. A dozen replies flared in my throat, each one sharper than the last, but I forced them down. The carrot snapped beneath the blade like a muted protest. A few days later, during brunch with her sister, Emma struck again. The cafe smelled of cinnamon and espresso, a scene that should have been warm. Instead, she smiled sweetly and said, "You wouldn't believe how patient he is. Still plugging away at his little projects while other guys are buying vacation homes." Her sister's awkward laugh was a knife twist. I sipped my coffee, staring at the swirling foam, letting their voices fade into background static. Inside, quiet fury roared. Not the hot, reckless kind, something colder, focused. That night, I sat down at my desk long after Emma had gone to bed and opened a new file. No more small gigs. It was time to build something that couldn't be dismissed as a little project. I sketched out the blueprint for a subscription app designed for small businesses, something scalable, something that could grow beyond me. The glow of the screen became my battlefield. Every line of code, every late-night tweak felt like laying the foundation for a silent rebellion. Emma's words echoed in my mind, not as wounds, but as fuel. I didn't need her belief. I needed results she couldn't ignore, and when they came, they would speak louder than any insult. It was nearly 2 a.m. when the email arrived. Subject line, "Interested in your app." I rubbed my eyes, certain I was imagining things. The sender's name made my pulse kick. A tech investor whose podcasts I'd listened to for years, a man known for turning small ideas into industry giants. For 10 full minutes, I just stared at the screen. My cursor hovered over reply, my chest tight and restless. What if he thought my code was amateur? What if I stumbled through the pitch and confirmed every cruel word Emma had ever thrown my way? I almost closed the laptop. Then I heard Emma's muffled snore through the wall and something hardened inside me. I typed a quick, careful response. The call was set for Thursday. I spent every night rehearsing, pacing the dim hallway, whispering explanations to the empty rooms. When the day came, my palms sweated so much I nearly dropped the phone. But the investor's voice was warm, curious. Within minutes, his excitement matched my own. "This is exactly the kind of scalable model we're looking for," he said. By the end of the conversation, he made an offer, seed funding large enough to replace my salary tenfold. I barely heard the rest of his words over the pounding in my ears. When the call ended, I sat in the dark, the quiet of the house wrapping around me like a secret I wasn't ready to share. The next morning, while Emma chatted about weekend plans, I drafted my resignation letter. No grand speeches, no second thoughts. By Friday, I was no longer an employee. Instead, I quietly signed a lease on a small, windowed office across town. By day, I was the unassuming husband Emma believed she could mock. By night, and now by every hidden hour, I was something else entirely. The weeks blurred into a quiet storm of early mornings and midnight coding sessions at the new office. My app's numbers climbed faster than I could track. New subscribers each day, small businesses sending praise-filled emails. Yet at home, Emma read my absences like a sulking husband's retreat. "You're still brooding about that dinner party, aren't you?" she teased one evening, her reflection glowing in the vanity mirror as she adjusted her earrings. "Honestly, I can't carry the financial load and your bruised ego at the same time." I folded my tie with slow precision, biting back the laugh that almost escaped. If only she knew the numbers glowing on my monitor an hour ago, figures that dwarfed her entire yearly salary. At brunch with her friends, I overheard her boast, "I practically run the household." "He's been so distant, I guess someone has to keep the lights on." Their sympathetic nods were daggers wrapped in silk. Inside, the irony tasted bittersweet. Every late night at the office, every contract signed, was turning her careless ridicule into white noise. Yet with each passing day, the space between us stretched wider. Conversations became shallow pleasantries, dinners silent except for the scrape of cutlery. I noticed the small things first, how she scrolled through her phone instead of meeting my eyes, how she laughed louder with others than she ever did with me. The home we built together felt like a stage set, flawless from the street, hollow behind the walls. I sometimes caught myself wondering if I wanted her to find out, to see the empire rising under her nose. But each time I chose silence. Let her believe I was small, because with every mocking word she tossed into the air, my quiet triumph grew. Too big, too powerful for her to ever contain. It was close to midnight when I came home, the office still buzzing in my head with the thrill of new sign-ups. I pushed the door open quietly, expecting the familiar hush of our house after dark. Instead, Emma's voice floated down the hallway, low but edged like broken glass. I paused by the half-closed bedroom door. "Honestly, I don't know how much longer I can do this," she whispered into the phone. "He still talks about his little projects like they matter. It's childish." "I thought I married someone with ambition, not a hobbyist." A brittle laugh from her best friend crackled through the speaker. Emma continued, softer now, but every word slicing deeper. "Sometimes I wonder why I even said yes." "He's content to just coast. I need more than that." The world seemed to tilt. My grip tightened on the doorframe until my knuckles ached. The rush of victory I'd brought home from the office, new investors, record profits, evaporated in an instant. I backed away, careful not to creak the floorboards. In the dark hallway, the air felt heavier, like it was pressing against my chest. I wanted to burst in, to shout that I'd built something bigger than she could imagine, that her hobbyist had outgrown her shallow approval. But the words froze in my throat. Instead, I stood there listening to her laugh again, a sound once familiar, now unrecognizable. For the first time, the thought of divorce wasn't a fleeting threat. It was a quiet, chilling possibility that settled deep in my bones. I'd built an empire in secret, yet in my own marriage I had become invisible, a ghost in the life we were supposed to share. And for the first time, I wondered if love had ever truly lived here at all. The night my product went live felt strangely ordinary at first, a quiet click of the mouse, a final line of code pushed into the world. No fireworks, just the soft hum of my office heater and the faint city lights beyond the window. I leaned back, rubbing the tension from my neck, and told myself not to expect too much. Then the first notification pinged. 1 subscriber, 2, 10. My phone buzzed again and again until the screen lit up like a small storm. By midnight, the numbers weren't just climbing, they were surging. At 2 a.m., a tech blogger with 500,000 followers tweeted about the app. Within an hour, 3 major news outlets had picked up the story. My inbox exploded with messages from small business owners calling it a game changer, investors asking for meetings, journalists requesting interviews. I stared at the screen, heart hammering, barely able to process the flood of congratulations from the very investor who'd once taken a chance on me. "You've just rewritten your future," he texted. The bank dashboard confirmed it, payments rolling in faster than I could refresh. What had begun as a midnight rebellion now roared like a tidal wave. Money, recognition, validation, all arriving at once. I thought of Emma asleep at home, unaware. She'd probably wake to her usual morning routine, scrolling through social media, maybe another careless remark about my little projects. The bitter irony tasted sweet now. I wanted to call someone, to shout into the night that I'd done it. But instead, I sat in the quiet office, letting the glow of the screen wash over me. I had dreamed of this kind of vindication for months. And yet, as the world discovered my name, I decided Emma would be the last to know. Emma noticed the changes before I ever said a word. A new tailored jacket hanging in the closet, crisp shirts that fit like they were made for me, the faint scent of expensive cologne lingering after I left for work, or what she still thought was work. One morning, as I buttoned a fresh white shirt, she leaned against the doorway and tilted her head. "Well," she said, a teasing lilt in her voice, "someone's trying to impress me." I offered a small smile. "Just felt like a change." She stepped closer, tracing a finger down the sleeve. "I like it," she whispered, softer than she'd been in months. But behind her sudden warmth, I caught something else, a flicker of calculation. Around the same time, whispers of trouble at her firm began to surface. Late-night phone calls, clipped tones about budget cuts and restructuring. One evening, she dropped her purse with an unsteady sigh. "They're slashing bonuses this year," she muttered, almost to herself. The woman who once mocked my salary now lingered in the kitchen when I brewed coffee, her touch brushing my arm a little too often. She'd laugh at my smallest jokes, ask about my day with a sweetness that felt foreign. Part of me wanted to believe she'd rediscovered what we once had. But every glance carried the weight of convenience, not love. Her eyes weren't searching for me. They were searching for stability. I answered her questions lightly, keeping the empire I'd built sealed behind my calm smile. Inside, my resolve hardened like cooling steel. She thought these new clothes and quiet confidence were a bid for her approval. But I wasn't dressing for her anymore. I was dressing for the life I'd built, the one she would never control. Booked the same upscale bistro where we'd once celebrated our anniversary, the place she loved for its velvet booths and candlelit corners. The irony wasn't lost on me. I called it a make-up dinner, a small peace offering, and Emma accepted without hesitation, a bright smile lighting her face like old times. When I walked in that night, the maitre d' barely recognized me. The tailored charcoal suit hugged my frame. The polished shoes clicked like quiet thunder across the marble floor. Emma's eyes widened for a fraction of a second before she masked it with a practiced grin. "You clean up well," she said, her voice a touch too casual. I returned the smile and waited until the waiter poured the wine before leaning back, letting the moment stretch. "I sold my company today," I said softly, almost as if it were an afterthought. "7 figures. All wired this morning." The stem of her glass trembled. Colour drained from her cheeks, leaving her pale beneath the golden light. "That company?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "The one you called my little project." I replied. My tone stayed calm, but every word carried months of quiet fury. The one you said was childish. The one you laughed about with your friends and your sister. Her lips parted, but no sound came. The clinking of silverware from nearby tables filled the silence, a soundtrack to her unraveling. I let the weight of each memory hang between us. The dinner party jabs, the whispered phone call, every careless comparison to men she thought more worthy. For the first time, Emma couldn't find a clever retort. The room seemed to shrink around her, the candlelight casting sharp shadows across a face that suddenly looked like a stranger. And in that thick, breathless quiet, the balance between us shifted forever. Emma's composure cracked like thin glass. Her shoulders sagged, and for the first time in years, she looked small, almost frightened. I was just joking, she whispered, fingers twisting the linen napkin until it frayed. You know me, I tease. We can fix this, we can rebuild, her voice wavered, the confident lilt gone. Please, she added, reaching across the table, her manicured nails trembling. I didn't mean any of it. I stared at her hand resting near mine. The same hand that once waved dismissively when I spoke of my little project. For a fleeting second, old instincts tugged at me, the urge to comfort, to make things easy, but the quiet steel inside me held firm. Emma, I said evenly, my voice steady as a metronome, you can't joke about respect. You either give it or you don't. Her eyes filled, the candlelight catching the tears before they fell. I was wrong, she choked out. We can start over. I shook my head slowly. Respect isn't something you rebuild like a kitchen. It's not a renovation project. I paused, letting the weight of the next word settle. I've already spoken to a lawyer. The papers are filed. Her breath hitched, a sharp sound swallowed by the quiet hum of the restaurant. You filed? She stammered. Yes, I kept my gaze steady. This isn't about revenge. It's about self-respect. For a long moment, only the soft clink of distant glasses filled the space between us. Emma's tears finally fell, dark spots on the white tablecloth. She whispered my name like it might undo everything, but it only echoed back, powerless. I leaned back, the decision solid and unshakable. For the first time, I wasn't the man seeking her approval. I was the man who no longer needed it. 6 months have passed, and the silence in my new loft is a kind I never knew I needed. Morning light pours through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting the concrete floor in soft gold. There's no clutter, just a worn leather couch, a desk by the window, and the gentle hum of the city below. My company has grown beyond anything I imagined. Teams of developers now handle the code I once wrote alone at 2 a.m. Investors call daily, eager to be part of the next phase. Yet the satisfaction I feel isn't about the numbers in my bank account. It's in the quiet moments, brewing coffee while the sunrise warms the glass, hearing my own thoughts without someone's derision echoing behind them. For the first time in years, I feel my own worth without needing anyone else to confirm it. Sometimes the memory of that dinner party flickers across my mind, the laughter, the sting of public humiliation. I no longer flinch. Instead, I recognize it as the spark that lit a fire I might never have discovered. Without that night, I might still be coasting, waiting for someone else's approval to define me. People often ask if I regret how things ended with Emma. I don't. Not because of the money or the headlines, but because the journey forced me to grow a backbone I'd ignored for too long. True success, I've learned, isn't about revenge or proving anyone wrong. It's about freedom, waking up each day knowing that my worth isn't up for debate. I sip my coffee, watching the city stretch awake beneath me. The world hums, full of possibilities, and for the first time, I don't need anyone to see me to know I'm enough. I simply am.